Captain Sisko is cooking with peas and carrots. Jake Sisko wants to know what Kavarian tiger bat smells like. And Zial asks Garrick on a date at 9 p.m. in a sauna. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and I like saying sauna.
Sauna.
Today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 4 For the Cause, directed by James L. Conway, and written very well by Ronald D. Moore. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Pretty awesome. I like this episode. It was one I remembered, and I liked it a lot. So,
what did you remember about it beforehand?
Only bits and pieces because it's been such a long time. So what I remembered was, the main crux of this was Eddington, which was why I was always prying with you about like, oh, what do you think of Eddington? What do you think of?
Yeah, the moment finally came.
Right. And so I remembered that. I remembered Kasidy being kind of mixed up in this, but not in a good way, not like an accidental way, like actually doing some bad stuff. That's the extent of what I remember, and I remember, Garrick talking with Zial and how weird it was that suddenly they got an actress that's like 5 years older to make it less weird.
Right. So I did notice that Zial was not the Zial that we saw before.
Thank goodness, right? Because if Garrick is, she's going on a date.
It would be super awkward, yeah, especially in the steam room, like you said, or the sauna. But yeah, I could see that you would remember those things. This is definitely the episode that kind of it kind of reaffirmed what I believed about Eddington this whole time, because you notice I was suspicious of him this whole time, and I thought he was up to something, and then he kind of earned my trust because he wasn't really doing anything.
Right.
So you're like, well, it's 4 or 5 episodes now. He hasn't sabotaged anything. He hasn't died on a away mission. So I guess he's here to stay, and I guess he's, part of the crew. But there was this always in the back of my mind, this like suspicion about this guy. And of course you egged it on with, what did you think about Eddington kind of questions, but I just felt like I never felt like I could trust him. And I'm sure he played it that way, but he has one of those kinds of faces where you're like, what else is this guy thinking? He's also thinking something else.
Where he always seems like he's holding his cards close to his vest. He's always like, okay, sure, no problem. Whatever you say. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? Like people like Garrick and Cardassians, they want you to be suspicious. They want you to say, I don't know what this guy's really thinking. But the Eddington character doesn't want you to think that. Eddington character is trying to get you to be like, oh, he's fine. Like he's just like, yep, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. He's trying to play all cool.
Yeah.
Makes us even more suspicious.
Yeah. But then, that kind of goes away because you see him enough and you're like, okay, well, this guy's, I thought he was suspicious. I thought he was holding back. Maybe he's just reserving his opinion because he's trying to suck his way up all the way to the top of the, the hierarchy of the command system, structure. So I'm thinking, well, maybe he just wants to be the chief security, or he wants to be the, I don't know, some other kind, or maybe he's working even for Section 31 and he's kind of, just watching things. And I felt like there was a part of him that was interested in his career movement, right? Like I thought that he wanted to move up in Starfleet, or he was interested in his position and place in Starfleet. That was something that I felt maybe just subconsciously about his character,
Yeah, really interesting character. The actor is Kenneth Marshall. Really hope we could get him on the show sometime. Real quick, let's give a quick shout out to our friend Tim Baum. Tim Baum, we see him sometimes in the free-for-all. Hopefully he'll be in this one later. We just want to give a shout out to him because he's always got such a great and infectious laugh and so many fun things to say. So shout out to Tim. Hopefully he's listening in and he can be like, that's me. And we'll be like, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Fear the Beard with Tim Baum.
Also, very quickly, everybody at home, check out the Voyager documentary on Indiegogo. The link will be in the description box below. We are heavily involved. And it's a lot of fun and it's doing really well. And it's all one love with Star Trek. Deep Space Nine supports Voyager. Voyager supports Enterprise. Original series is like, screw you guys. No, I'm just kidding. Original series supports everybody. Anyway, so shout out to that. Please take a look at that in the description box below. Let's talk a little bit more about this episode because I took so many notes and there was so much good stuff. It's one of those episodes that's easy to talk about, right?
Yeah. And then I have some other like personal things that I want to interject with maybe at some point, but I had some points to make about this episode. I thought there were a few moments there that were really poignant. Specifically the ones between Jake and Sisko. This was a different dynamic that I don't think we'd seen before. And what I mean by that is, you see, before Jake was trying to hook his dad up on a date.
Right.
And he was like, get over, you got to get over mom. You got to move on. I want to see you with some companionship. And there was a very innocent kind of wantingness for this to happen. A want. But now at this point, especially with the scenes, I felt like when he walks in, he's like, hey, get a room, guys, He talks in a different way. It's a slightly different way, right? Because now you're walking to the room, you're like, hey, why don't you guys get a room or something, right? All right, you two break it up. That was the line I wrote down.
Right.
And so he's like, break it up. Right. So you see what I'm saying as far as
and then when he
kind of maturing.
And when he's missing Kasidy, he was like giving him the business. He was like, oh, you miss talking about. So I was like, wow, it's a different side of Jake all of a sudden.
Yeah. I noticed that too. And he was really going on, guess you're not used to sleeping alone anymore. Used to her companionship. And he kept playing with the words, right? And that just to me shows that Jake's even more comfortable with his dad and even talking about the subject of, them in bed together, essentially. So he has a little bit of a comfort level now, I think, because time has passed and because he too is maturing and having kind of adult conversations with his dad, is starting to be able to feel like he can make those kinds of jokes with his dad, right? He's like, Dad, I'm just joking. He's like, yeah, I know. It's not funny right now.
But it actually kind of hit close to home because the opening scene did show that Sisko was getting used to and enjoying sleeping with Kasidy. Like there's that really nice moment where when she gets up out of bed and she leaves, he smells her. Actually, I remember this too from before. He smells her pillow and he goes, oh yeah, that's the stuff right there. And then he moves his stupid pillow over. He's like, this is the one I want. And that was such a good added personal touch there because we do, link people to smells and we do appreciate smells or sense of a significant other. Or sometimes it just reminds us of something or it makes us feel comfortable. So that was a really cool moment. I do wonder, that's the kind of stuff that I wonder if that was developed in the writer's room. Like they said, oh, make sure to put a thing where blah, blah, blah. Or if that's just, Ronald D. Moore taking his homework home and working on it, saying, ooh, here's a nice little touch or, whatever it is. I always wonder where that comes from,
Yeah, I do too. And I just know that Avery's so good at these kinds of moments and these subtleties that my first instinct is to accredit him. But certainly our writers are that good that they can also write some of those kinds of subtle nuances. But I did like that moment because it just shows that they have this level of comfort. She's like, continue to sleep. You know how when you're in bed and you don't want to wake somebody up, so you're like, no, just go back to sleep and rest, and don't get up because I'm up. And there was also that kind of intimacy between the two of them that I enjoyed. But at the same time, she's kind of lying to him this whole time, right? She not is kind of, but she is lying.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we kind of do these mental gymnastics when we're watching this of trying to say, well, it's not really that bad. It's for medical supplies, or maybe she didn't know, or what. But then at the end of the day, we're just like, man, nope, she just, wow. It's pretty major, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think that if the role were reversed, would it wouldn't have, I don't feel it like it would have been let go of that easily. So if, for example, I'm lying to my wife or girlfriend or significant other about where I am, and she specifically asks questions like, you're going here, you're going to do this, you're going to do, like, exactly like that, you have to lie to get around or to avoid. And even if it was something, let's say, slightly good, like, or that it could have a good benefit for people, I just don't know that lying and trying to get away with that, carving out of time and space without being honest is going to be something that flies.
Yeah, and he was definitely noticeably prying, when there's that moment when somebody starts going, oh, so that's where you went, huh? Okay. And oh, that's weird. It usually takes a little longer than that. Or are you sure? And then you're like, oh yeah, that's just because we took a turn, and it's this weird tug of war, this weird give and take where both people are aware that there's a little bit more going on, but nobody wants to say it. If you're the person being asked, you're kind of like, well, what's really going on here? And if you're the person doing the asking, you're like, come on, let's give me a little more. Let's hear it.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before in another episode that we did, but I talked about Columbo, and this is the Columbo moment in this episode. Columbo
or the Shield. What the Shield was to Aaron is what Columbo is to you.
Yes, Columbo is my shield. And one of the things that he does so well on that show is when he has the moment that he has information that he believes the person he's talking to knows the answer to, incriminating perhaps information, he always goes about it into the same kind of fashion that we saw displayed with Kasidy and Sisko. And that is, there's just one thing that I can't figure out. It takes about 6 hours to get there, and it took you 9 hours, or something like to that effect, and won't let up on that point. And I felt like that was the kind of exchange that we got here, except in this. Well, no, similarly, Columbo and Sisko would let it go and say, well, all right, I'll let you run with that answer.
Yeah.
But I have some backup checking to do again.
Right. It's just getting a little bit more information, not just what the person is saying, but also how far that person is willing to divulge things. So it's not just getting a little bit more information, but it's also getting the information that the person being questioned doesn't want to give, that isn't, that's beyond what they're actually saying. Then if you're the questioner, you're thinking, okay, she's willing to go this far, or she's willing to not divulge this, or this is the question that made her uncomfortable, or whatever it is. You start kind of piecing
Bingo.
Because that's when Sisko started getting more suspicious. At first he was just like, okay, well, let's just poke around a bit. But then based on her responses, he started going, you know what? I need to put my own personal feelings aside, because there are some red flags here now.
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing was the avoidance of the question. At some point, she said to him, well, why don't you just look at my flight log? Like she didn't want to answer any more questions. She's just like, if you want to know more, you're the captain, right?
Google it.
Google it, basically. So I thought that was kind of like, that's once again like a defensive mechanism. When people are hiding or guilty of something and they're covering something up, they usually get defensive. And like you said, oh, that's the question that elicited that response. So now I know this is the thing that you're covering up, protecting, or bending the truth about, and it'll just inspire me to be more curious and go farther into in the investigation, right?
Yeah, and since we're on that subject, probably the best line. I mean, this whole episode had a ton of subtext in the scenes. Star Trek's really good at subtext, Deep Space Nine especially, and there was a lot of subtext between Garak and Zial at first, but putting that aside, the most was when Sisko was saying, actually, I think it was this scene, when Sisko was saying goodbye to Kasidy. And when the first time when he's saying like, hey, why don't we just go to Risa? And she's like, oh no, I wish I could. And that was the nail in the coffin there. That's when he was like, okay, I gave you your last out. I went even farther than I probably should. I stepped over a line as a captain by giving you an out, but you didn't take it. And now, God help you. That's it.
And I think her final kind of reply in that moment was, I have to do what I have to do, or something like I have to stick to the mission. Yeah, I've got commitments or something like that. It was basically, I pledged. It was like a pledge or something that she's like, I promised in a pledge. So it's like basically I've given my allegiance somewhere else other than to you and to us, right? To something that trumps our relationship. And so that's one thing that I did notice that. But I thought that the thing you were going to highlight was a different subtext. And this was a poignant moment for me. And that was when Jake and Sisko were sitting. And it was just after the moment where he was ragging on him and he was making these innuendos about the two of them in bed. Then Sisko says, yeah, I'm just having a bad day or something to that effect. And then I feel there was a moment where he says, he grabs Jake's hand, right? And he holds his hand in his hand. And he says to him, this is important, you and I.
Right. Yeah.
Things change, but not this.
We must bring salvation.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was close to that, but not quite. Not the Michael Jackson version.
That's the one. Can you hit?
But what I got, not even close. I won't even try.
Anyway, please. Sorry.
No, I won't. I won't try it. But this is what I felt, and I don't know, Ryan, because as a parent, there's like so much that you want to tell your child, right? And that's the goal of life as a parent, is like to transfer as much knowledge as you can, transfer all your wealth, to set them up in as best you can in life, and let them be prepared for all the things that are around the corners, right? So you're like, this is what to expect when you first fall in love, or this is what to expect when you get your heart broken, or this is what to expect when you are facing college admission exams, or whatever it is that you're going to go through in life. And you want to prepare them as best you can. But there's also sometimes where there's moments where you don't even have the words to say what you want to say. And you don't even, and not only that, but sometimes they're not old enough to receive those words because they can't understand those experiences yet, right? And I felt like that was the big moment there for me that really resonated. When he's holding his hand and he's like, this is important, like he's trying to tell him how much this means and what this moment means, but he can't really get it out with words.
Right.
And I've felt that same feeling with my daughter, and so I kind of was like, wow, that's so much subtext there. I love the way they wrote that. I love the way they kind of made that moment and that emotion really real for Sisko, and it shows me how much love he has for his child, the same as any parent.
Right, and it's compounded by the fact that he's bound by Starfleet, that he can't talk to anybody about it. Even his own son, who he wants to tell more than anybody, because it's not just a Starfleet matter, but it's a personal matter. So it's like it hits double hard. And it's just one of those things where he's just like, I wish I could talk to you about it, but I can't even tell you that there isn't it. I just have to. And he's thinking like the pain, and he must feel really torn that this is his girlfriend that he loves, who's not only betraying him, allegedly at this point, but that he is the one that's going to have to catch her and put her away. And he's just like, God, that's got to be one of the hardest things ever. And that's why he's talking to Jake and saying, man, what we have, you would never do this to me, man. And it just starts making you really cling on to the things that you do still have when you lose other things that are close to you.
Absolutely. And it's just like you said, you would never do this to me, man. It's like, it's us, man. We're a team. And it's also, I am in front of the pain that you're about to feel. Like, I know what pain you're about to go through as a result of this. You're gonna, first of all, it's the person that you introduced me to, so you're gonna feel some type of guilt for or responsibility for, introducing me to somebody who then turns out to be like this, right? You're also gonna lose the person that you love as this motherly figure in your life for a while. So he's looking at so many impacts of this situation on how it's going to affect Jake going forward, and I think he brought that up to her at the end of this episode, towards the end, where he says, "How could you do this to Jake?" Right? It wasn't even about him at that point.
Yeah.
He's like, I can understand how you do this to me, but how could you do this to Jake? You lied to him. You've been deceiving him, And
he must feel like, before this, he must think, wow, what a relief. My son has gone motherless for a while, and I may have found a Band-Aid. I may have found this lady that I love, that loves me, that's great, but also somebody that's, another parent for Jake in a way. And so he's probably thinking like, dude, yeah, I can only imagine, because they do a really good job of showing that, Jake is Sisko's number one priority, always, the way it should be. And, they show that throughout the entire series. And so when he says things like that, we absolutely believe it, where he's like, I'm a grown ass man. I'll heal. But how could you do this to my freaking son? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
And that was kind of poignant and powerful for me too. That was another aspect of this episode that I thought was well told, and great storytelling by Ron Moore.
Mm-hmm. So looks like we're going to take our break in just a minute here. There's so much more to cover. Yeah, I knew this was going to be an easy one to talk about, because there's so much. So we've only hit like part of the A plot, basically. B plot obviously being Garrick and Zial, and maybe we won't even cover that. That's weird. But
no, I mean, I think it's worth covering it.
Totally.
There's a lot of good stuff there. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a super quick break, and so fast people won't even know we're gone, and we'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. We're doing our review of Deep Space Nine's Season 4, For the Cause. And it's a doozy. Real quick, here are the trivioids. Less trivioids than usual because I was so caught up in the episode. Kasidy has a meeting with her engineer. The Federation only gave Bajor 2 CFI replicators, as we remember from a previous episode. The Cardassians in the demilitarized zone are getting worried. Odo and Eddington want to keep an eye on Kasidy. Sisko's cooking with peas and carrots. Yeah, he was making like pea soup and he chopped up some carrots. And I just thought it was funny, peas and carrots. It's like that old thing that they used to say for like background actors or something back in the day. They'd be like, or voiceover thing when they say, if you're making like background noise in like a bar scene or something like that, and you're supposed to make like the whispers and the murmurs in the background, they say, just say peas and carrots. So it just sounds like a whole bunch of people saying peas and carrots, whatever. Jake wants to know what a Kavarian tiger bat smells like. Zial asked Garrick on a date to a sauna. We know that. And Quark wants more room in his shoulders. The Kavarian tiger bat. We had 2 of those things that we still haven't yet named. We really need help from the live chat here, guys. In Star Trek, when they say a blank Ian, something that ends in IAN, and then some Earth thing, that's a Talganian water kitty. So it seems like and this was Kavarian tiger bat, and this time they actually did 2 of them in this episode.
There was another one, right?
Yeah. What was the other? Oh, there it is. A Tabalian. Is when Kira says to Garrick, "Is that clear?" And he goes, "As Tabalian glass."
Yes.
Well, that's very clear. Tabalian glass is extremely clear.
Very clear. They make the clearest glass in Tabalia.
Yeah. So anyway, so we need to come up with a name for that. Otherwise I'm going to have to just make something up, and it's going to be a stupid name. Cirroc.
What are we naming?
Whatever that Star Trekian thing that they do in every episode.
Okay, so we're just going to come up with our own. That's what you mean.
Yeah. Also, we had 2 NAMs. Did you catch the NAMs today? Everybody at home, a NAM is on mention.
Ducat is one of them, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
And the other one I think was said by Quark, but I don't remember who he was referring to.
Well, I'll give you a hint. It's during the scene that triggered a lot of Red Sox fans, because Sisko said, "Besides, the Yankees will bury him."
Yeah, I heard that one.
Jake came in and said, "Hey, I got this new holosuite program that Nog sent me."
Okay. No, I missed that. That.
So those are the two heavy hitters got their NAMs.
So Nog sent the 61 Yankees versus the 78 Red Sox.
Right. He's the one that sent the holosuite program to Jake Sisko. And it's so cool that Nog is out of a lot of these episodes because he's off in Starfleet Academy, but he keeps getting mentioned over and over again.
I like that. And I just, that's another credit to the writers and how they keep storylines alive. Like this is the Marquis coming back now after having gone away for a while. Now the Marquis comes back into the fold here. Nog gets represented in this episode, even though he's gone away to Starfleet Academy. And there's obviously Kasidy is another person who kind of is being brought back. And Zial is also another bring back character, so they always kind of keep these stories in our faces. If they bring somebody in, Eddington, for example, as well, if they bring somebody in, they keep them around, and it's not like they're just a one-off. I think DS9 does probably the best job of developing these ancillary characters like that.
Yeah. And then they keep those storylines going even if we don't see the character for a few episodes or a year or two. They bring them back and they say, well, now she's grown 7 years in the last 3 months, whatever. Kardashians, it's whatever. Maybe they grow differently. Who knows? But yeah, there was an interesting part in the turbo lift. I almost use that as my background, but this was, the most poignant scene where Garrick had this weird way of, I guess, flirting with her, because I'm like, does that really work, being in an elevator with a girl and saying, hey, should I fear for my life? Does that really work? And she's like, don't worry, I won't kill you. Well, are you sure? Because I'm a little concerned you might kill me or whatever. And she's like, no, you have nothing to fear with me. And then he goes, and you, my dear, have nothing to fear from me. And he walks away like a stallion. And she's like, oh, does that work? Is that a real thing?
It works for Garrick, I guess. It is a good one. You should try that sometime in an elevator. Should I fear for my life? Yeah, that's a great one. I thought Garrick, I thought something different, and maybe this will turn out to be the case later on. Maybe this storyline will lead somewhere where I'm thinking it's going, but I thought he was plotting on Ducat's daughter because he was trying to one-up Ducat or find, to get leverage over him.
That would definitely be a way to get Ducat to go. Can you imagine if I don't know if you ever used to watch Cheers, and there was that character, the French guy Henri, and he would always go, Woody, I'm going to steal your girlfriend. It would be like that kind of character where Garrick would be like, go Ducat, I had sex with your daughter. And Gold would be like, I'll get you for this, Garrick.
Yeah, so actually that was like what I thought about this interest that he was taking in her, more so than him truly believing that he was, in fear of his life, because this guy has dealt with like pretty much the most badass Cardassians in the business, right? So he's dealt with the toughest people. I can't see him being afraid of this girl, who's half Bajoran, who's young, is like half his age. So it just didn't seem like.
Yeah. The whole.
I think he played the opposite of that too. I think he purposely didn't play it like he was trying to get with her like that.
Yeah, and I was kind of catching myself like saying, wait, he's not really scared of her, is he? Like, I thought it was all just like part of his charm. But then at the end, when he puts away the phaser that shows he's not really scared, I'm like, okay, I don't think he would go as far as to bring props to convince her that he's scared. Maybe he really is actually worried about her. And then, of course, Quark gets him more concerned with his fun. Always great scenes between Quark and Garrick. They're rare, but they're great. And I just thought, I'm just not sure if I'm buying that Garrick is fearing for his life with this girl. But
yeah, me too. And I didn't get that either. And that's why that was a little bit weird to me. Now, if there was an incident between the two of them where Garrick suspected that she purposefully tried to do something, you know what I mean? I can't, it's like if you get in a car accident with somebody and instead of it just being an accident, you suspect that person purposely was trying to hit you with their car, then it's different. And then if that was a misinterpretation on Garrick's part, then I could see it happening. Like, oh, well, what about that time that you spilled that boiling hot water on my neck, or whatever it was? You weren't trying to kill me, And she's like, but just the fact that she's like watching a racquetball game with Kira or whatever, that was like, okay, I don't see him being afraid of her, having gone through the experience that he's gone through in his life. There's no way that I believe that he would be fearful of her in any type of way.
Right, even just something subtle, like if he had seen her in
conspiring with somebody,
and she's like talking to somebody on the pad, and she's looking at him across the room, or not even like in the next day once she's gone, blah, 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 and she's looking back at him, and maybe he overhears her, or Garrett goes to Quark and says, tell me, who's the young lady talking to? And he says, well, then she's talking to Gul Dukat. I saw and then he's like, why is she looking, any little thing like that. And then of course, then maybe there's something to where he's like, oh, she's talking about me. She's looking at me. I don't know what's going on. But.
Yeah. As soon as I walked up, she closed she closed the window on whatever she was watching, something like that, where he would be suspicious. But just the fact that she's sitting across the way and they're watching this racquetball thing, I'm like, I don't buy it. I didn't buy that. But he played it well as far as the respect thing. Like he had a great respect for her, and he wasn't like obnoxious like when Bashir tries to hit on a girl. So I didn't feel any of that. I didn't feel any of that. I felt it was polite. It was still charming in his own way, but I wasn't sold on the fear at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sold on his fear when Kira showed up. That was
now Kira. That I believe
she could instill fear. That's okay, right?
That I believe, yes. When Kira shows up, and that was funny because there was another moment where Worf in this episode was talking with O'Brien about, I would never join a rebellion, something like that.
Would be dishonorable.
Yeah, and O'Brien's like, yeah, well, tell that to Kira. Like,
yeah,
I dare you to tell that to her onto her face, And I thought that was a kind of little fun moment, but to talk about, being a rebel.
Can you imagine Worf going, Major Kira, I believe terrorists are chickens. Or something like that. You'd be like, excuse me.
There is no honor in anything you've done. Like, okay. Yeah. Good luck with that one.
There was a little interesting dynamic when we see one of the opening scenes where there's Sisko, and suddenly we realize that there are 3 security officers, different types of security. There's Worf, Odo, and Eddington. And it was also strange that Odo and Eddington were like, can we talk to you, Sisko, in private by Worf? I'm like, doesn't Worf kind of outrank them? Like, they don't need to. Yeah. They don't need to. If anything, I would say the person that should be left out of that would be Odo, because this is a Starfleet matter. So if anybody needs to be like outside of the matter, then it would be Odo, because he just deals with the station. But whatever, we understand why they did it. It was for the story of having Eddington be the main guy. The Judas.
Yeah, and I had problems with that too a little bit, just small problems. And my little problem with this episode in regards to Eddington was the fact that he essentially exposed himself.
Whoa.
And did all of this. No, not that kind of expose. But he betrayed everyone. But just for like 17 reclaimer, replimats or something, right? like you did all this for 17 replimats. Like I just don't see that being enough to be infiltrating DS9 for the last 4 or 5 years and all this stuff. And we've been watching him do this. And he did all this infiltration just to steal a car radio. Like, bro, you could have just did that in the beginning. I don't see why you would go through all these hoops. And if you were also that good at infiltrating for this long and nobody caught you, then you would have devised a system of stealing those things, which would still keep you undercover and would still keep you.
And you'd have more value remaining as the spy and the infiltrator.
Yes.
Longer, maybe for something big, maybe for blowing up the entire station, or maybe capturing Sisko on the Defiant. Okay, but steal, a couple washing machines or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't get that part.
Vending machines. They're like, all right. They're like, really? This is your big fish you wanted to fry, but whatever. I guess they're very important to the Maquis. Or maybe he just thought that they were like, maybe he felt they're gonna find me any moment now. I better just get what I can and go, kind
of thing. Yeah, but then it also exposed Kasidy, right? So both of their undercover operatives essentially are exposed in this episode.
Yeah, right.
And doesn't that defeat the whole point of infiltration for such a long time, unless this is the climax, final end of the Marquis, this is the end of the war. Now you say, aha, you didn't know, but I was behind you the whole
twirling
time.
their mustaches.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is not. This is like, hey, we got those 16 dishwashers and we're done now. So good luck finding us, Captain. Screw you. And I'm going to jail for the next 10 years, but I'll be back to give you a big hug and kiss. Like you went through all that.
Yeah, I also felt that Sisko was a little too forgiving with Kasidy at first. I definitely see that, he could still love somebody and definitely forgive them. But he was basically like, it's cool, man. Just go to jail, but I'm not mad. He was a little forgiving.
Yeah,
but
a little bit too much. So.
But it's also good to kind of for him to like hold his reservation and be like, okay, well, how deep was she really into this stuff? Maybe she was just only did it twice and didn't really know what she was. Like you gotta. It is true that you want to kind of reserve your reactions until you get all the information. So that aspect is good too. Yeah,
I have to go with you. I felt like he was like that at first. So what set up the thought that you're talking about, which is, I think it was a little bit too quick and forgiving, like right away. What I think they set it up with, the writers felt that too a little bit. So they set it up with the fact that they thought she wouldn't return, right? They right. Kind of hinted like she'll never return. She's going to be a fugitive and she's on the run now, and that's it. And so when she returns to face whatever punishment, it's like she's owning up to what she did, and that's, I guess, some kind of like confession / I'll take my lumps and keep going because I love you, right? I'm only going to do this because I want to be with you, or I love you. So I see how they explain that away in the writing, but I think they missed a few beats where Sisko could have interrogated. How long have you been doing this? Like, why would you get involved with that? You know what it would do to my career, like those.
You got some explaining to do.
You got some explaining to do, You got to talk that one out. You can't just be like, oh, all right, well, give me a hug and go to jail.
All right, I'm gonna be watching you though. I'm really.
Yeah,
you're right. They wrote that in where she made the big effort of coming back. She made the big sacrifice. So that does help. This is another one of those that could have been a 2-part episode, because then they could flesh all that stuff out even more. And they could add more to the B plot. But, it's a good problem to have more story than 42 minutes can hold. That means It got great stuff. And we have a few minutes left, but I wanted to make sure I hit this point. That Ractigino and Macapa bread looked really freaking good. Like it looked like that Ractigino, that did not look like coffee. That looked like a nice hot chocolate or mocha or something. He was dipping it. I was like, I went back and I watched it a second time. I mean, I don't think he bite of it, but it looked really good. It looked like they made you a nice yum breakfast.
They did. It was like I think it was like a little cappuccino type thing with the biscotti.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, but usually what they're feeding me or feeding us is good food. They make it to your likings. They, keep it fresh. And so it's actually a good thing. But Sisko, there was a moment when I'm putting the bread right in his face and he's backing up and it kind of reminded me of just as a kid, how kids are like, they don't really talk. They just back up like, no.
They just react.
Yeah. It's like, don't even put that in my face. Like, you're offending me. But there was a moment too. Also, I don't know if you thought this or not, but when Eddington and Odo first approached Sisko about Kasidy, there was a moment where I felt like, oh, this is like a racial profiling episode, right? Like they're profiling her, right? She's making these runs. She's this. Yeah, I was like one of the things. So I thought, oh wow, you screwed up. You screwed up because you just did that in front of Avery, right? Sisko's not gonna he's not gonna let that profiling go, and he didn't actually. He was like, "Where's your evidence?" And so essentially, he was defending the profile, right? He's like, "You're not about to profile this person because she's a black woman making deliveries across the Gamma Quadrant. No. You need evidence." And they came up with their evidence, like, "Hey, she was 6 hours late on one run." He's like, "That's not enough evidence, right?" And that, again, kind of making these assumptions and profiling based off of very slim information, right? It's like if you're going 5 miles over the speed limit, then you already assume that they just robbed a bank and they're on the run. It's like, well, that's a big step. That's a big step. So I thought they were going into the idea of profiling and about to defend it, but they didn't. She's actually a criminal, and I was sad to know that.
And you bring up a good point in that Star Trek is usually good at hitting those points and being like, see, you guys shouldn't have assumed. But what Star Trek also does really well is every once in a while, they keep us guessing. We make it to, because they set up that situation to where we think the end is going to be that, oh, it was Eddington the whole time and Kasidy took the fall, and Odo and Eddington, maybe you need to think about what you've done here. Kind of, that's the direction Star Trek usually goes. But every once in a while, they give us another turn to keep us guessing, which is good because you don't want always to be able to predict,
Yeah.
But you're right. I hadn't really thought of that. I always kind of took it on the face value of Sisko saying, "You are implicating my girlfriend right now." And they're like, "We're well aware that you're not going to take this well."
Yeah.
And, and Eddington's like, "Odo, don't leave me. You said you woid be with me. You said I would have to face him by myself. Stay here." Because, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Eddington told Odo, Can you be with me when I tell him?"
Well, yeah, there was a moment where Kasidy calls Sisko, like, I'm going to get to the bottom. I'm going to call the boss, and you're not about to delay me for 6 hours. She got on the phone, and she's like, "Hey, Ben, what's going on? I got places to go." And when I like that, actually, I like that. But then Sisko, obviously, he was put in a position where he was like, "All right, I got to let her go, right? This is my girl. She wants to roll out. She'll miss the whole obligation if she doesn't leave. So I'm not going to stop her from having to go at all. So just let her go." But then he looked over at Eddington like, "You got a problem with that?"
Oh, he's like,
and Eddington,
"You have something to say?" And he's like, "Nope.
Nope.
No, I don't. I'll say it to Odo, but not to you."
Not to you. Whatever you want to do, sir.
But in Sisko's defense there, it wasn't just in a personal matter. Like, he did say what his thinking was beyond the personal way, which was, she's given us all the information she can, she would. And at this point, it's almost like when they say, at this point, they're worth to me more alive than dead. It's almost like, okay, we're not going to get anywhere this way. Let's follow her and see, so there was more to it than just like, "Sorry, my girlfriend asked me, what can I do? I don't want her to be mad at me." There was definitely more. It was more calculated than that from him.
Yeah, I would say that, because then he opted to kind of lead this mission to follow her. But what is weird to me is that they were essentially these 12 replicators was the thing to protect. And this is another little small issue I had with the storyline. So if we're protecting all the gold that's about to come into Fort Knox, and we suspect that this person who has no gold on their ship is guilty of something, I wouldn't go on an expedition to follow that person without the gold. My attention and focus would be on the 12 replicators that need protection, and we need to know where they're going. Her being a smuggler is a side note if there are no replicators on board her ship. That's what I'm trying to really get to.
Right, that's a good point. And there was also one more thing I wanted to bring up along those lines when talking about Eddington and Sisko. I also thought it was a really interesting way that Eddington got himself out of the mission was when, and because he didn't bring up a good point. He said, look, if I go on this mission, there's a good chance we're going to have a firefight. And if we do that, there's a chance that Kasidy may be a casualty. And I do not want that. I don't want to be responsible or indirectly or directly with the death of my boss's girlfriend, basically, and you would think that Sisko would be like, tough shit, you're going to do it anyway. But it was interesting that he said, okay, fine, you can stay here with whatever, and I'll go handle this. But it's true that nobody wants that responsibility. Everybody's like, I do not want to be in charge of that mission, man. This is not, so Eddington did a good job of kind of, weaseling is kind of a worse word than what it is, but really kind of finagling his way, tiptoeing around the boss and, getting what he wanted out of it.
Yeah, I have to say that was kind of clever of him in hindsight, because I didn't realize it at the moment when he was giving that excuse that was what he wanted to do. But it is clever for him to say that. And obviously, nobody wants to be in the position where they would accidentally have to fire on somebody's girlfriend, and who wants to deliver that news, she was in the way. It's not going to work well. But I do want to say, because we're pressed for time, that Eddington did have a final speech that was really questioning Starfleet's motives. And this is another thing that we get a lot of in Star Trek, right? Mm-hmm. We get these moments where Star Trek questions the Federation and what the Federation is doing. And they always kind of make this point to say that you're not as benevolent as you claim to be, that you're not as, your intentions may be good, but sometimes what you do has bad outcomes. And in this particular episode, he says, you're worse than the Borg. You assimilate people and they don't even know it. And I thought, wow, he kind of like dropped the mic on that.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because actually our good friend Eve England, who will not be at the Free for All today, she did mention that. She sent us a message saying, hey, I especially really like this part that you're talking about, where Eddington really kind of gives us a little check of kind of like, hey, dude, don't think yours doesn't stink too, man. Like, it's all a matter of perspective.
But then Sisko gives him his own mic drop moment where he's like, look, I don't care. You betrayed me. You lied to me. And for that, I'm going to make sure the court-martial is all up on your ass. So I just thought he
my dying day.
That's death wish to get back even with you. So that was another good thing that I thought was good. Like you can die on your sword of the high ground, and you've got the more morality up here because you're somehow defending the rebels and you're doing it for some cause. But I also have my orders and I have my instructions, and you betrayed me in this way. Right. And I thought that was an excellent, kind of agree to disagree moment.
Yeah, he's like, well, I understand what you're saying, and I hope it helps you sleep at night when you're in prison. But
exactly.
Anyway, we're going to jump over to the other side on the Free for All. We do want to give a very special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Thomas, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Robert Hoffman, and Darlena Marie. Thank you all very much. We are going to hit the Free for All. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule.
Hello and welcome back to the 7th Rule with Homer Freezy from New Yeezy in the Heezy to Deezy. We got Malissa Longo, the awesome, wonderful person classing up the joint, and featuring Mochi's butt. We have Marie Segal, somewhere in the island of Manhattan. And we have PJ Tomas, I believe it is, sitting in the green room. And we have our host, Ryan Husk, and I'm TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri.
Nice. Excellent. And this is the free-for-all, everybody. Cirroc Lofton is doing an audition, so he may or may not return for the rest of the episode. But let's kick it off with some information about this episode, brought to you by Marie Segal.
Well, I don't know as many details as I'd like to. However, I thought what was really fun is that your guy Eddington, who you're always talking about and getting really excited to talk about more. Yes, it's like he's a bullion.
Oh, there was a bullion in this episode I forgot to mention. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. So basically, back in the days of like early internet and AOL chat rooms and everything, the theory was that Eddington was a changeling. So the writer's room found out about this theory and were like, oh, well, we'll show them. We'll do the opposite of a changeling. So they made him a Maquis, or as Worf says, Marquis. And which is so weird. He keeps
Why does
that.
Worf call him Marquis? He said it like twice, right?
Here's my theory that he heard Picard say it, and Picard added that weird R sound. And so
that's literally the same thing I thought. The same reason why I call Packlets Pockleds is because that's because Picard does that. So maybe when Worf heard Picard call them Maquis, he just thought that he was just a British guy pronouncing Marquis.
That's what it is. The Marquis.
And they only do those verbal logs, so maybe he never saw it written out. But anyway, so then Ryan asked me, how is Maquis opposite of a changeling, which I thought, oh yeah, good point. So the reason is that this episode was supposed to be an allegory for like the Oklahoma City bombing, where initially they thought it came from like some terrorist cell outside of the country. And then they found out, obviously, as we know, that it came from within. So it's sort of like
homegrown.
Yeah, exactly, homegrown. And I guess the episode evolved a lot after the initial pitch, but you can still see that that's there a little bit, but not as obvious as I think they intended it to be. So that's the information I have. What I'm more interested in is, why did Kasidy say no to a trip to Ryza? I would have been all over that.
Well, we know why.
Like, and every time I see the episode, I'm like, go to Ryza!
Yes.
Freaking say yes!
Did any of you watch the episode recently? Or remember?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
cool. So what do you guys think? Why did Kasidy say no to Ryza?
She gave her word that she would get those supplies to them.
Yes, she doesn't have a good XL.
Yeah, she's not very good at.
She's like just a pawn in their strategy, and she's the one who ends up having like jail time and stuff. In the end, she wasn't even really...
I blame Michael Eddington for that.
So
I think
sad.
I think her heart was in the right place, and they used her the wrong way.
So sad.
Yeah.
So darn you, Michael Eddington.
Absolutely. And as to Ryza, she's just not very good at delegating. You know, she's like a micromanager, and so she had to do it.
And then we got that like brilliantly awkward moment where Jake's trying to have like weird sex talk with his dad at breakfast. Flash while I'm watching it.
Do you remember what he said?
He's something like about sleeping alone. It's so
Yeah, it was a little
Every
weird.
time it comes on, I'm kind of like, let me just tune out a little bit.
Is it just me, or he was also trying to like impersonate his dad a little bit while he was saying it?
Absolutely.
So uncomfortable. And like he's never had that relationship with his dad ever. His dad's never like, oh yeah, like.
Well, he did hook them up, so
yeah.
There's that. But I thought that scene turned into a really powerful one when Sisko got up and said, things and people change, but not this.
Beautiful.
Not this thing that we got. That's special.
Yeah.
That's special, and I'm just having a bad day.
Talk about a roller coaster of emotions over breakfast.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I got a nitpick.
Oh boy.
From the very opening scene. I don't have a tie.
Wait, hang on.
Very opening scene. We got Tim coming on board.
We got Mr. Tim Baum joining us. Hey, Tim Baum, how are you? Tim, can you hear us?
Missing.
Can you hear us, Tim?
Tim Baum.
Ladies and gentlemen, out in Mars.
He recently celebrated a birthday. Welcome to
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, he's getting his earphones.
Take your time, Tim. It's not like we're recording a podcast or anything.
Tim, how are you?
Tim, what are you doing?
There
you are.
I'm trying to get this set up. That's like
no problem. So
you got this, man. We believe in you.
Got it now.
He's out in Mars right now. Looks like from his background.
Yep.
He is out there persevering.
So TJ was just
while Tim sets up. Oh, you guys are good.
TJ was just about to tell us something fun. So go
okay,
ahead.
yeah, nitpick. So very opening scene in the teaser. They wake up in the bed. She's got to go, meet with her engineer, whatever, do some marquee stuff is what we know she was actually doing. And so she gets up and she puts on her clothes in like 2 seconds and walks out the door with no shower. No shower.
Space clothes.
No shower, no poop, no coffee, no brushing her teeth.
And I'm thinking of this because we were talking about the awkward conversation. So this PG podcast. So they woke up in bed together, and she just gets up and leaves with to go meet her engineer with no shower.
But maybe she went to her quarters.
That's what I think.
Or going to meet her engineer.
I like that. I like that idea. The idea I thought of is, okay, maybe we didn't see the full, sequence, and there was more time between when she came back to the bed to say goodbye. So maybe she took a shower and put the uniform on and said, goodbye, I'm out of here.
I think she went
my
to
rationale
after. But actually, I heard that the other thing I know about this episode is that there was some controversy around this scene, having like the two of them in bed together. Even though it was the 90s, I guess that was still an issue. And there's some like different theories around why that was an issue. But I think it's just because they weren't married. So I guess having her clothes and stuff helped that a little.
Wasn't it like the 24th century or something?
Yeah, I know, it's insane.
I remember how in the
people
60s, married couples slept in different beds on TV.
Well, they're not married. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, back then. But then it started like finally.
And even Lucy, which is the ultimate Star Trek connection, Lucy and Ricky slept in separate beds.
Although the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
That was one of the first shows where they showed both of them in the same bed, a queen size bed.
Those like moments where they're just having their end of the day debrief about all the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Greg would always come in and knock on the door. I got the question or whatever.
Yeah, so Greg. I love Brady Bunch.
But we've seen couples that have spent the night together before. Well, Barial and Kira weren't married. They definitely spent the night.
Data and Tasha.
Dakar and Kira weren't married, and they definitely spent the night. So I don't know why this one would be
I know, especially because it's such a like cute moment too, where it's not like it's like a one night stand or like some like tawdry hookup. Like they clearly care about each other. And actually, like I just heard Cirroc talking about this. What a great moment it is on Sci-Fi Sisters podcast. They were talking about like what a sweet moment just in TV in general it is when like Avery then like sniffs the pillow and like rolls over. It's just so cute and how like there's no way that was scripted or like it'd be shocking if it was. It's just like an ad lib.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier in the episode, wondering if that was written, and if so, was it written by Ronald D. Moore alone, or was it written in the writer's room where they're like, make sure you put a scene in there where he's, or maybe it was Avery that said, I'm going to sniff the pillow or something, or whether it was the director.
Kind of romantics where you could maybe see them thinking about it. They seem to really love their wives.
But that does lead me to the question I want to ask, but we'll put a pin in that for now. I think Homer has some thoughts on this episode he'd like to share with the rest of the group.
Yeah, but it's a different than that first scene. It's more like I wanted Michael Eddington to be like a Maquis guy, and we know that he's a Maquis guy, but that DS9 still doesn't know. Instead of just doing all of that in one episode, I'm going to stun Kira. Oh, okay, that's it. I've been found out. I wanted it to be a bit more. And then I also wonder, were those 12 replicators, worth it for you? You are a commander in Starfleet. Isn't there something else maybe you could have done that would have been even more helpful to the Maquis?
How come every room on Enterprise has a replicator, and yet they're like so hard to get? And why can't
these were industrial replicators?
Why can't you use them to replicate more replicators? Or replicate the parts
Isn't
to make
that like
replicators?
asking the genie for more wishes?
Exactly
that's true.
Yeah.
That's a little true. It's just so like, I don't know. It seems weird that you can only make, after all these resources, we got like 5 or 3 or whatever.
And I really like the scene on the Defiant where Worf and O'Brien kind of encapsulate how the different sides of the Maquis pro-con argument too. And that was good. It was interesting. I expected to see Eddington react a little bit there, but he played it
stone cold.
Straight. Yeah.
Homer, I totally agree with you. You have the guy who played the lead in Crawl on the series, and you could have dragged that out for at least half a season, like before you. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that.
That's also refreshingly fast on reveal though. Like after like all the long, I mean, at this point, like in history where you have to wait like through all long arcs for seasons, it's kind of fun to have like an episode where you're like, whoa, all this happened in just one episode. But I do see how it would be good drama. Yeah, but
I have an alternate ending idea. Wait, somebody else was about to say something there.
No, go ahead.
Wait, Melissa.
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So how awesome a show would it have been if instead of the ending we saw, Sisko like also believes that the Maquis are right, and he and Kasidy and Eddington all decide to be Maquis for like the rest of the series, and they end up like fighting against the actual Federation until they can like come to terms or something.
That's so Babylon 5.
And find some common ground. Okay, I did not see all of Babylon 5, so I didn't know that was a thing.
That's the Babylon 5 alternate ending of DC.
Okay, well, that would be why they didn't do it then.
Tim looks like he's watched Babylon 5 based on his reaction.
Actually, I tried.
It's a rough start, but then
no, I want to, and whenever I find a place where it's available for me to do so, I will.
Hey,
all the one-offs are awesome.
It's on HBO Max now. It's looking good.
It is.
Okay. Okay.
No, one of my issues about this whole episode was a lawful order. Okay, I'm hardcore military, but you just can't disobey a lawful order like Sisko did.
I just also, the one thing I've always had a problem with the Maquis is that I don't find their like convictions that compelling. Like,
No.
you've lived on somewhere for like one generation. Like, how are you, or like a couple of, I have a hard time seeing why they're so attached to this and why they need to like dramatize this into a cause. Just like, fuck it up and move. Like, you weren't.
Well, that's what gave rise to Voyager, you know. It's but no, it's
like no one's ever saying like it's a homeland or like these things are like special about it. It's always just like, oh, we've had some hard times like plowing land and now we're attached.
No, you know, I understand because it's all about the quote DMZ, their version of what I experienced in Korea. You know, you've got Federation, you've got, and it's like, okay, we just want to be, we're kicked off this land, they're kicked off this land. Yeah. So they don't see the bigger picture, but I can understand that's your homeland for the last 50 years. And all of a sudden you join the Maquis because you don't want to be kicked off your land. So, but you know, that's the thing that
like Cardassians anyway.
Well, that's, you know, because Sisko obviously violated a lawful order from an admiral. So
I missed that part. What was the order that he violated?
Don't go there.
Okay.
Don't go where?
Well, that's where Eddington stepped in and sabotaged the ship. Am I remembering the right episode?
I think you're thinking of a different episode.
Yeah, that was the one where they.
I was thinking maybe you were talking about like the demilitarized.
Okay, that makes
sense. But
yeah, okay.
Maybe this is when they follow Kasidy's ship into Badlands, into the demilitarized zone. So maybe that is some. I mean, that's definitely somewhere they're not supposed to go. In that case. But they're doing it.
I do think
chase her down. Yeah.
You know, looking at it this time around, watching Eddington kind of weasel out of having to go on the mission because it's like I don't want to be the one to have to arrest her because she's your girlfriend.
I used that exact same word before about that. Weaseling out of that part.
Yeah. That was seeing it this time around. Like I'm like that was super contrived on his part. Like.
Wait. Ryan, you cut out, so I thought you were saying that you used this excuse with a girl before.
No. I said
I'm sorry, I can't go out with you because you're a Maquis.
Yeah, I used that word. I said he weaseled out of that mission really well. You know, I was like, I hesitate to use the word weasel, but now that TJ said it, I guess it's okay to say weasel.
Well, he is a weaselly character. Every time I think Eddington, I think Weasel. So Weaselly just comes naturally when I'm describing something he does.
I apologize for getting the episodes confused. I was thinking
we're all like that.
I'm like, I've had a rough day studying, and it's like, okay, we're doing this one. Okay, I remember that. Well, obviously, I remembered the wrong episode, but.
Well, I do.
Well, I think there were about 2 episodes where Eddington had a strong role on the station, and this was one, and that was the other one.
Yeah.
By the way,
then he got arrested. So
we gave you a shout out earlier in the episode, Tim. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Oh, you mean a non-appearance mention?
Yeah. And Malissa, were you going to say something earlier before we got sidetracked?
Yeah, it's not important. I was just gonna say Eddington makes my butt twitch, so I don't. I'm so glad.
You're that much, huh?
No, I'm glad they didn't drag it out. So,
especially because later on, like Sisko kind of, you know, we don't have to worry about spoiler alerts because Cirroc isn't here. But when like Eddington dies later, and Sisko sort of like has some sympathy for the cause, it makes that moment like even more special.
Speaking of which, everybody at home,
super nice to.
Cirroc is doing a video audition right now. That's why he's not here. We forgot to mention that at the top, but thanks for reminding us, Anne Marie. So Cirroc will be back shortly, maybe before the end of this. You were saying, TJ?
What was I saying? I lost it.
Oh,
It's
we
gone.
have to talk a little bit
Oh
about
yeah, it would have been super nice to have Bernie Casey back in this episode.
Cal Hutchinson
with the marquee. Yeah, Cal Hudson. 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 Yeah, Hutchinson is the.
Hudson.
You're right. Hutchinson is
Hutch.
Hudson. Yeah.
Cal Hudson,
the king of small talk.
How did I forget that?
Yeah, call me Hutch. So, a few minutes left in this one, guys.
That's my Hutchinson laugh, by the way.
What is it?
That's so good. I just want everybody to.
That's great.
I just want everybody to be Hutchinson.
So here, is that a Seventh Rule shirt, Anne-Marie?
Oh, it is. This is one of my 7. Yeah.
Nice.
This is
But
my
you have
ultimate
seven
favorite
Seventh
one.
Rule shirts.
Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome.
How many is too many?
And
And I
There's
also
no such
bought
thing.
them for like Christmas and like holiday presents last year, so I bought like 20. Like,
everybody at home, if you'd like a shirt from the Seventh Rule, just check the description box below. We include the link to our Teespring store.
and how do you get discounts?
And also Melissa's, who happens to be wearing her shirt from Walking Art made by Melissa. We include that in the description box below.
Oh, and my bracelet's from there.
And I think
and Homer's shirt.
I was going to say, hey, hang on, let me pin you, Homer. There it is.
Wow.
That's the henceforth shirt. Yeah.
Oh, Mary Chiefo.
Oh,
Love it.
Oh, yeah.
So here's our question for the day. Oh, what's that? Oh, you got a
Oh, Tim has the noggin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too cute.
You can also get that on walkingartmadebymelissa.com. Oh, wow, there's another one. Hang on.
I'm holding a grudge.
That's amazing.
Get that on Jackson-Bey out in Missouri.com.
And Brian, I appreciate
a website.
Brian, your shirt is a subtle nod to the baseball game that happens between the 61 Yankees and the 78 Red Sox.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
You remember that because Sisko said the Yankees would bury him.
And they
Yeah.
did.
I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah. So here's the big
So-
question of the day.
I'm sorry, Homer, but
Uh-oh.
That's okay, Tim.
What's the question?
Thanks for showing up.
The question is, since
Ooh, shots fired.
Homer since Homer mentioned the Red Sox and Yankees, that one's already covered. But what we are going to say is pillow talk.
Oh boy.
My favorite movie.
What's the best pillow talk in a Star Trek episode or scene? Because there was that pillow talk scene with Kasidy and Captain Sisko. It's the best one. I think TJ has this right.
Picard and Bosch are super cute.
I was literally sitting here saying, "Don't start with me, don't start with me, don't start with me," because
All right, we'll
I'm gonna automatically go. No, do start. I'm automatically gonna go to fully functional, programmed in multiple techniques.
Melissa, that's one of the first episodes of Next Generation. That's Data talking to.
Oh,
The naked now.
Yeah, a drunk Data.
Yeah.
wow.
For some reason, drunk data.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go there.
Anne-Marie, do you have an idea?
I do think like
A deer?
the cutest
You
is
said?
Picard and Bosch. I think they're so cute together. But only because we never really see Picard and Beverly like pillow talking, and I would maybe classify like when they're at the campfire together in that episode, like is it Attached? The one where they're like connected and they're out in I think Vasquez Rocks or some desert.
It's Griffith Park, Bronson Caves, I believe. And
That's
where
also
we're going
like
to be going for
first
one of the away missions, by the way. In the boy.
Woot woot.
And Jadzia Work,
Hashtag
honorable
boy dot.
mention.
Okay, that's a good one. Homer, do you have one?
I don't remember the exact words, but I'm going to go with Cirroc and Miramani.
What?
It's from the original series when Kirk gets bonked on the head, I think, and it's like a Native American type of environment that he's
but
in.
not bonked on the head.
No, I think there's a.
At first, I was worried.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm sticking with.
Nice. I think Tim's the only other person that remembers that episode.
Probably.
No, I totally remember it.
Oh, really? Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
I remember Cirroc.
I mean,
All right, PJ, what do you say?
Yeah.
I think the first thing that came to my mind was that like just one of those moments between maybe it's not pillow talk, but between Trip and T'Pol and Enterprise.
Thank goodness, I almost said that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Are we talking the massage times, or what are we talking?
I wasn't thinking the massage. I was thinking more down the road.
Down the long road.
Yeah, I guess the massage times.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Oh my.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ.
Good. Trip and T'Pol, we like them. Well, Mr. Tim Baum, what do you say?
Honestly, it's Ezri and Bashir at the end. Because it was kind of foretold. No, it was a nice ending. It's like they finally got together. So that's my favorite one. So.
Good. Melissa,
we got a big day ahead of us. It was a big night.
Yeah. The only thing that bothered me about the scene, he's like, okay, I know how far the spots go down now. I'm like, dude, you're a doctor. You treated another Dax that died. You know how far the spots go down. It's like,
maybe they all have individual spot lengths.
Well, I know that came. Anne Marie, that came up in your favorite episode, Meridian.
Oh yeah.
Well, and you could see her.
That guy did not deserve to know.
And you could see Jadzia's spots on Ryza when she was in her bathing suit.
Yeah. So that was kind of like, okay, that line shouldn't have been in there, but anyway. But no, that's my favorite scene because it's near the end of the series, and it was like, the war's almost over, and they finally get together and understand each other. So
is that what they call it now?
What?
Understanding each other?
Yeah, we understand each other.
I don't know.
Although, speaking of that, I did think, just to shout out Homer's background, I did think it was really beautiful, the moments where Zial and Garrick, I know it's not popular to say you like them as a couple, but I thought it was really beautiful, and just them getting to be have that intimacy of being the only ones of their kind or half their kind on the station, and being able to just talk about what they have in common. I thought it was really nice.
No, I did. The Zial and Garrick was one of my favorite interactions because there was complexity to it. Mm-hmm. But no, that I actually, it showed Garrick's almost human side.
Yeah,
and
it feels very genuine.
Yeah. So,
and I think that was the most time we got to spend in Garrick's shop at any one time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wish we had more time to talk about this because I wanted to say, how would you make his quark suit cooler?
His suit already looked awesome too.
Talk a little longer after this, but Melissa, close out the pillow talk for us.
Well, I was gonna say, Jadzia and Worf, they've got many wonderful moments. But I'm going to go somewhere a little less obvious and go with Grilka and Quark.
Oh.
Love it.
Oh.
Yes.
The second time around.
So cute.
Nice. That is a good one. I actually watched Anne Marie's reaction specifically because I know that she likes Grilka. I'm like, oh, where's Anne Marie? Let's see how she's acting.
I only watched Star Trek for the relationships. So this is perfect. I can talk about this for hours. Ryan?
We only have a moment left. Oh, here's one from me. Riker and Ro in that episode that I can't remember. Conundrum?
Oh, you
They lose their
promised
memory.
me.
Yes.
Conundrum?
Yeah.
Riker is just so seedy when he's just like, hey, you never know. We could be lovers or we could hate each other.
That's the worst answer ever.
Super exciting for them. They're like, I don't remember anything. Let's see what happens.
The only wrong answer you could have possibly
I mean, that
said,
just
you
goes
said
to
it.
show that Riker is Riker even when he's not.
Yep.
I felt so bad for Deanna in that episode. Oh, I hate that.
The answer.
Anyway, we do have to run. Cirroc will be back on the next Free for All for sure. And we'll catch you all very soon. Thank you for joining us, TJ, PJ, Homer, Malissa, Anne-Marie, and Mr. Tim Baum out in Mars. We will catch you all next time. And always remember the 7th rule. 7 T-shirts.